Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. You're listening to Obsidian Radio, another episode. And today I will be reviewing the 7th episode of Season 3 of Attack on Titan. The episode entitled Wish was another episode where certain characters finally could see a more clear version of who they are, as well as many other characters that had to make some profound but very important decisions in this episode. So let us explore what went on in this particular episode. Now, as far as my first thoughts were as follows. Super hyped about the final battle between Levi's squad and Kenny's squad. I feel really sorry for Eren and what he's going through because he now knows exactly what his father did and how Eren Yeager, got his powers. And I was anticipating how Historia was going to react to her father's wish. And I was not disappointed at all. So as far as the plot, the episode started out with Eren still chained up while Rod Rice is convincing Historia to participate in the passing of the powers ritual to pass the Titan power and the memories of humanity from Eren back into the royal bloodline. Eren emits muffled screams through his gag while Rod Rice looks up at him coldly. Immediately after that, we see Levi kick in the door to the underground fortress. Armin rolls out the barrels down the steps. Sasha shoots them with the flaming arrows. They explode and smoke fills the cavern. Levi's squad then shoots smoke flares in all directions. And upon seeing this, Kenny's squad knows that they're in for a fight. The fight of their lives. Then Levi and Mikasa, as well as Jean and Connie, swoop in and start slicing, stabbing, and decapitating up to about 10 members of Kenny's squad. The battle continues as Kenny and Levi go at each other. Levi dodges multiple gun blasts. Kenny blocks many sword swings. Levi gets a small cut on his cheek, but Kenny, he receives a much deeper wound on his obliques. Levi's squad has no casualties, and only Kenny's squad has had any deaths occur so far. Unfortunately, Hanji, on Levi's side, does get caught by Trout's ODM gear, and she eventually gets thrown into a crystal pillar where she falls unconscious. Kenny takes himself out of the battle, while his squad retreats deeper into the cavern before dropping a net between themselves and Levi's squad. Kenny comes back to Rod Rice to interrupt the ritual. Kenny is pissed that he might not be able to obtain the power that he wants. So in a rage, Kenny yells at Rod Rice while picking him up and even he tries to convince Historia to not take the serum and transform. Kenny is convinced that Rod Rice is just using her as a ploy only for his own benefit and the benefit of the royal bloodline. Kenny then goes up to Eren, releases his mouth gag, cuts his forehead open so it bleeds, so that when Historia transforms, Eren will have some chance to defend himself. Then he goes up onto a perch somewhere near the top of the cavern. Here is when Rod Rice desperately pressures his daughter Historia to transform as quickly as possible to complete the ritual. But as the pressure mounts, Historia remembers the words of Ymir, and I quote, "Krista, live a life that you can be proud of," unquote. And with that, Historia throws down the syringe, shattering it. Her father reacts with rage as he grabs her. She performs this beautifully executed judo throw, chastises her father's selfishness and his cowardice, runs to Eren to free him. While doing so, she gives an impassioned speech about not feeling guilty for their choices and not caring about humanity. On the ground, Rod Rice, the king, the one with the royal bloodline, who's now crawling around the floor with a hurt back and ultimately just made a fool out of by Kenny and his own daughter. He is now crawling over to the pool of the Titan fluid that busts out of the syringe. He licks it and immediately turns into a massive Titan. A Titan that might be larger than the Colossal Titan that Bertolt has. And he makes this transformation in front of Eren and Historia. And the episode closes. Now here's some interesting things I noticed. Let me see. 6 things. 6 things that I noticed. So let's go. A. The Kenny versus Levi battle, was that in the manga? I can't remember if it was or not. Either way, I love the way it was drawn. I love the way it was animated. I love the way they went at each other. The different things they did to go at each other. Very well executed in the animation. B, Gene finally seems to be getting over the killing of other humans. The scene where he slices that one guy's head off in midair definitely showed a growth in his character in terms of him becoming the person that has to do what has to be done. He hesitated, but he still went through it. So that shows that his character is evolving in that way. C, Kenny, despite being a mass murderer, actually made the most sense when he was trying to explain to Historia that her dad was simply using her. Looks like, oddly enough, Kenny, the Ripper, had more common sense and honor than that of the royal bloodline king, Rod Rice. That's actually kind of pitiful when you think about it. But oh well. D, the judo throw that Historia, I think that's a judo throw, that Historia did to her father was nicely done. I think it should have had a few more frames to it, but it was still pretty good the way it was shown and the way it was animated. E, I like that Ymir's flashback was the main trigger that got Historia to realize that she should not sacrifice herself for her father's wishes. It really shows that her and Ymir indeed had some type of strong connection with each other when Ymir was still interacting with her. Very good writing, as far as I'm concerned. F. Now this is something I wanted to get to for a long time. We're going to get to it now. Rod Rice character is interesting, but in a dark and messed up way. When I look closely at his character, I see someone who doesn't value other people in his life at all. For instance, his family that got genocided by Grisha Yeager when he ran for his own life, his brother who went through the ritual instead of him, his mistress that was executed in front of him when the rest of his family died and they had to cover up him having any other children from any other bloodlines. And then he almost allowed his own daughter to get executed, but instead banished her to live a false life under a false name. Then, almost a decade later, he tries to convince her to go through the ritual to take on the Titan serum and become a Titan and be part of that generational curse that the family gets put on itself in order to maintain its power and its control over humanity by holding on to the memories. It's just like, when you really look at his character, he is really messed up. So many people seem to either drop off, die, or have their lives completely destroyed or ruined whenever they had some interaction or were at least around Rod Rice. But now, for once, someone finally stood up to him and chose to live life instead of being sacrificed for his wishes. Very good Historia. Very good. Animation quality was on a high level as usual. No complaints. The best thing about this episode was when major characters finally figured out what value they actually had. Whether it was Kenny, who accepted that he won't gain the Titan power he wanted, Eren, who realized that his current abilities may not be as special as he thought, and that what he and his father have done has caused a lot of suffering, but he probably hopefully can atone for this in some way, I guess. Or Historia, who finally realized that her father never truly loved her. He didn't care about her at all. He saw her almost exclusively as a pawn to retain the power of the royal bloodline. Very soulless, non-empathetic having character. Rod Rice is a piece of work. All of these are good examples of characters in the story who gain more knowledge of who they are and they gain more understanding of their purpose in this particular universe. Now, as far as the worst thing about the episode, I can't think of anything that was really wrong with the episode. As far as my favorite scene, definitely the scene where Historia is unchaining Eren, and she tells him while punching him in the head to shut up, stop crying, and that they should never feel guilty or responsible for humanity any longer. The next favorite scene is probably when she did the flip and threw Rod Rice over her. Then maybe Rod Rice's transformation. Those probably be the next two, but as far as I'm concerned, this scene where she's talking to Eren is very, very important. That solidifies the type of relationship that they have with each other. Perfect dialogue, perfect monologuing, good animation, and good scoring put together for that short but intense and slightly funny scene. As far as a 1 to 10 score, I'd give this episode a 9.5 out of 10, nearly perfect. And overall summary, I was not disappointed in the fight sequences. I was not disappointed with Historia, Eren, or Kenny. Their behavior and the choices they made were excellent and showed a lot of depth to their character. I especially liked that Historia challenged her father, who ultimately came across as an arrogant, cowardly fool who cared too much about the family name, the family bloodline, and the power that the family had. An arrogant, cowardly fool who seemed to always have others die for his wishes. But his daughter decided not to fall into that trap. Good job, Historia. And of course, the ending kicked ass. So we get to see more of what that Titan's going to do in and outside the cavern. And I can't wait till episode 8 is up next week. And with that being said, that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, share, and donate to support this channel. You all have a nice day. I'm out. Peace.